What's going on, guys? It's Adam P and welcome back to yet another Newcastle United match day. Coming off the back of a famous 4-0 win in the Champions League over SG Union, taking on a Forest team that is the complete opposite in European football. They've had a bad loss against Midtjylland during the week. They've lost to Sunderland last week, so you can tell things have not been going well for them this season. So going into a match today, I've seen their line, it was a back five, a team that's playing with no confidence at all, playing against Newcastle, a team that isn't necessarily confident in front of goal, however, certainly a team that is confident coming off the back of that win during the week. I'm fairly happy with the fixture time, and I think just before the international break as well, just get in and then take it to them and make sure you come away with 3 points. In my opinion, it has to be a game when Newcastle doesn't just win, they need to score some goals as well. Only scored 1 goal in games this season. We haven't scored more than 1 goal in any Premier League match, and we're on match week 7 now, so we have to be able to score more than 1 in the game. Otherwise, 1 goal is not going to win you many games this season. So let's get inside, let's speak to some opposition fans, let's speak to some Newcastle fans, let's see how the vibes are going around the stadium. Of course, if you guys are new around here, make sure you get down there, hit that subscribe button. Every single match we're going to be at. Appreciate your support as always. Let's get into things. How are the Mags?
I'm Bray. I run a YouTube channel called Maybe Bray. A Forest fan, of course.
Your first time up in Newcastle today, what's your first impressions of the city?
I love it, to be honest. I was so... well, the way that I'm expecting this game to go is very, very badly. So badly so that I decided in order to make my trip to Newcastle for the game worth it, I would stay over last night, have a night out in Newcastle. It was great. And yeah, then come to the game, watch us get spanked 3 or 4-0. And then go home.
Well, I was going to say you made a trip out in the respect of the bars. I mean, a bit biased for me, but I do have to say Newcastle's a fantastic night out. I think you at least enjoyed yourself in that respect. Of course, we already know your...
It's a brilliant city from what I've seen so far.
Of course, we already know your initial opinion on the game. Obviously not going into the game confident.
Yeah, we're going to get panned today. I would take a 2-0 loss right now.
Wow.
If you offered in front of my face 2-0 loss, I would absolutely take it. I think we're going to get embarrassed today. I think that Ilanga is going to absolutely show us up. He's going to get his first goal or assist or whatever for Newcastle today. I'm absolutely 100% sure of it. We just look a mess at the minute. I don't know what Andrew's done, but we can't defend, and we don't even look threatening really going forward. I mean, all this pretty football, and our 2 goals against Midtjylland were a penalty and a long ball over the top.
So yeah,
so
I know.
What's the point of playing pretty tippy-tappy football if you don't get anywhere with it? We've got to deal with Nick Voltemada today, who I rate massively, and I've rated since he was at Stuttgart. There's an old post from my Twitter saying the Forest should sign him like ages ago. And Dan Burn, I mean, we can't defend set pieces, and we've got to deal with 2 6'6" players. I don't know what we're going to do today. We are going to get properly filled in, and it's going to be miserable. But there's a Greggs on every corner, so I can have a Greggs after it, so I'll be happy.
Right. The final question before I let you go to the game. Now, of course, you haven't spoke too positive towards the game today. Do you think Forest can turn it around this season? Do you think you're going to have a good season?
No. I don't think we're going to have a good season. I think that potentially if we book our ideas up, then could do all right in the Europa League if we get sort of favourable draws. But at the minute, if we keep on playing like we do, then we won't get out of the group stage. We're not going to go to Austria and get points. We're not going to go to. We just don't look. I don't know where our next point's coming from. It's so sad the way that in the space of 1 season we've gone from, you know what, I think we can go anywhere and we have a good chance of winning, to now I don't know where we can win. Genuinely, I don't see a win coming until we play Leeds in November, and that's more than a calendar month away now. And surely Ange can't survive that long. But something needs to change fast. If by some miracle we were to even get a point today, then that would be massive. But Ange will need a lot more than just that to save him, because getting sung by your own fans, sacked in the morning after 6 games, it sort of shows you where we're at with Ange right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair way of putting it. Well, hopefully after today you guys can put it around. I do like Forest, and it's great to see you back in European football. Hopefully Forest can sort it out, but for today, of course, as a Newcastle fan, I'm not going to be wishing you the best in the match. Well, I hope you do enjoy the rest of your time in Newcastle.
Thank you very much.
Hi, it's Charlie. And I'm Peter. We're from Charlie Talks Football.
Of course, taking on Forest today, come off the back of a very strong 4-0 win in the Champions League, taking on a team that is doing the complete opposite in European football, not looking strong at all. So, are you confident going into the game today?
Well, I think definitely it is a must-win game for Newcastle because of, I think there's a gap starting to open up with the other teams who are higher up in the table. So I think we will win, but I think it's going to be a bit of a scrappy game. I'm going to go for a 1-0 win for Newcastle. But yeah, especially with the international break coming up, I think we need to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, we had a good result in the week, winning 4-0, not conceding a goal, but this is going to be a different kettle of fish. We've got to start strong. I'm just hoping, I don't care what the score is, as long as we win. We need 3 points, as Charlie says, to take with international break, and fingers crossed that'll put where, for when the players come back from the international break. But I think it'll be 2-0. I think Valdemar will score and Bruno, so fingers crossed.
And finally, we'll ask you the question about Valdemar, because it's now been confirmed that his press conference at Whistler's injury's been set back. So even when you get back from the international break, you've still got the same issue of just one striker playing every single game basically for Newcastle. I mean, I guess I'll focus the question, Nick Valdemar. I mean, just how good has he actually been essentially thrown into the deep end already?
I think he's done really well, in my opinion. I think his link-up play has been fantastic. I think obviously for a big striker, usually he's not supposed to be quite good with his heading, but he has scored a lot of goals with his head, so I think he's settled in pretty well.
Yeah, I think technically he's a really good player, and he links up the play well, and I think the key is Newcastle players learning when to give him the ball and where, and I think he can actually create a lot of chances for midfielders and wingers, and he'll chip in with a few goals. I don't think he'll be prolific, but I think he'll do really well, and I think once the players know how to play with him and get the best out of him, he'll improve. But we do need Wissa back as soon as possible, because we need that versatility, different players. Fingers crossed he's back in, I think it'll be November now.
Far too soft for me, but easily goes down. What a goal from Bruno that is. What a penalty that is. He is some player, man. Been fed at scraps all game long, and he's took the chance when he's got it. Absolute quality again. I mean, that is the most top bins penalty you will see. We have it full time at St James's Park. Newcastle United 2, Nottingham Forest 0. What a second half that was from Newcastle, and I say a second half because I certainly felt like that 45-minute period was probably Newcastle's best half all season in the Premier League, and that's now the first Premier League game this season for Newcastle. We've scored more than 1 goal in a game. We've now got 5 clean sheets out of 7 matches in the Premier League, and it's a match where Newcastle has a lot of positive takeaway from that game. And I have to say, second half was tremendous today. I was so pleased with the reaction from what was a real bleak, uninspiring, just a crap half to watch against a team that's obviously came out and played a 5-back, quite a negative play style from Forest, coming to St James's Park just to try and play the counter attack. And Newcastle were able to go in at half time, sort it out, and come out and just be 100 times better than what they were. And that's a team of real quality. I felt like quality won Newcastle that game today. A player like Bruno, who stepped up 2 decisive moments in that game, stepped up outside the box, scored, stepped up inside the box, won a penalty, and that 2 moments from Bruno's single-handedly got us 2 goals today, and it was absolute class from individual players. And I have to say, 3rd time this week he's scored 3 separate games. He's now scored 3 matches at St James's Park in a row. Nick Walter-Mardy, special talent. What a player he was, and what a penalty that was as well. And we'll start with the opposition team just before we go into more detail about individual players, because I had Bray on, of course, before the game, Nottingham Forest fan. What has to be the most depressing opposition fan interview I've ever done. He was so bleak, and he was just so convinced that Newcastle were going into the game, where he even said, I would take a 2-0 loss now. Well, Bray, you got exactly what you wanted. You got a 2-0 loss in the end. He was happy with that before the game. And from Forest, it was what they deserved. There was no way in hell Forest deserved anything from that game. First half, fair enough, there was nothing in it. Forest had a few half chances in the game and maybe should have been more clinical and took the chances when they had them, because especially against Burn at left back. Burn was getting pooked at left back, especially that first half. Forest were getting past him several times, and at a period Newcastle was panicking a little bit, weren't unable to do anything in front of the goal. That was when Forest could have struck, and they never did. And it was a game where Newcastle, once they were comfortable, once they got into it, there was just no way back for Forest. There was no way in hell they deserved to win today. There's no way in hell. You look at the Premier League table, look at the way Forest has played. They've just not been good this season. They've been a mess behind the scenes. Nuno, of course, is gone, and Jose, and a manager that nobody wants at Forest. You can already see it's just not working out, and it's a real toxic situation where Forest is a mess behind the scenes. During what is a huge, it's supposed to be an ambitious season for them. They've got European football. Yes, okay, they should have maybe been in the Conference League, they'll end up being in the Europa League. They got upgraded to a real good competition to be in, and they're not being able to do anything. They lost to Sunderland last week. They've just lost Newcastle today. They're right outside the relegation zone. It is a legitimate relegation race as things stand for them. And it's a season where Forest should be pushing up, they should be progressing, and they should be doing well, and it's the complete opposite. And I feel like towards the end of last season and during the summer as well, you've seen the cracks. The cracks have been coming for a long time. Nuno Mariacas having that argument in the pitch at the back end of last season. You've seen the Morgan Gibbs-White situation where you've got the ownership actually stepping in to prevent a release clause being activated, and you've got all this going on behind the scenes where I just don't think it's sustainable. I think eventually it's going to filter onto the pitch, which you've seen this season. Forest have dropped a lot of games, they've dropped a lot of points, and they're not playing well. They didn't play well today, and they've lost against a team that has been struggling to score goals this season. And that second half today, that was the Newcastle we all know, and that was by far the best I've seen from Newcastle this season. What a second half that was. I can't believe Matt Sow's best ever performance at Newcastle was not in a Newcastle United shirt, because he had a real good game today and actually kept Forest in it at a stage where Newcastle were just pumping them with chances, pumping, just going at them constantly. And it was the captain, Bruno, in the end. We just needed someone to finally step up and take it, because our attacking threat this season's not been there for the most part. So we needed the midfielder, just to someone to just take a chance and put us in the lead. And then the attack was relentless. Then the attack was bullying Forest out of the game. And Eddie Anderson, we'll talk about him. Newcastle, of course, Newcastle born and bred. What a performance from him. He's a serious player for Forest, by the way. He was very good from today. Unfortunately for him, gave the penalty away, because that stopped him having a near perfect performance. He was by far the best player for Nottingham Forest. He was getting at Newcastle, and he looks 100 times the player he was at Newcastle. And I'd still stand by the sale of Anderson, because we're in a PSR situation where it would have been a points deduction if we didn't sell someone. And Anderson at the time was a fringe player. He was our 5th/6th choice midfielder. And I don't think he'll be that player for Newcastle now. He was still here because he wouldn't be playing week in, week out. And that progression, that opportunity of Forest has actually given the platform to do that. And what a player he is. And I'm not saying this towards Forest fans, be mean by the way, but I'm actually kind of hoping Forest go down just so we can get him back in the chief. That's the only reason I'm saying that. I would love nothing more than Forest to stay up because they're a proper club. But if they go down, Anderson, you come back here, son. You come back to St James's Park. That's what I'll be saying, because I would love nothing more to see him back in black and white, because what a player he is. Serious player this season, by far their player this season. The only thing that's keeping them together at the minute, because the rest of that team is doing nothing for them. And I look at Newcastle's performance today. We'll go through some individual players now. I don't want to make this video negative. I was hoping for more from Elanga. I wasn't a fan of Elanga today. He wasn't great in the first half. When the ball gets to him, he's quick. But when he's actually on the ball, he doesn't know what to do half the time. His passing's not good. His shooting's not good. His crossing's not good. So what is he doing as an out wide option? I'm hoping to see more from him, because it's now been 10 games and all competitions. He hasn't scored or got an assist. I know technically against SG Union, he won us a penalty, so theoretically he got an assist in that respect. But he hasn't had any goal contributions for 10 games at Newcastle, and that is a concern for someone that's a £55 million player. I don't want to just pinpoint him, because I think Newcastle's attack for the most part has been quite fruitless this season. But he's the big one, he's a big sign for Newcastle. He's got experience in the Premier League. It's not like Nick Walter-Marto, who's not played at all in the Premier League. He has played in the Premier League, and he wasn't great again today. I felt like it was bits and moments where you can see the talent, you can see the spark in the player, but his overall play, it's just not good. I just don't think it's good, and I think it's a case where I would rather have Murphy back in currently, because I think Murphy, when he came on, looked to be more effective and more productive than Elanga. And it's just a real shame, because in the Champions League it's a complete polar opposite, because he was good against Barcelona, then got a man a match against Union SG. So how come in the Champions League he's class, and in the Premier League he's not really cutting it? So yeah, that was one of my concerns, because I felt like against his former club this needed to be a match day where he did something. He just didn't quite do that. Walter-Marto, I wouldn't say it's a negative, because he was class and scored a penalty, but again, he was feeding off scraps. Like we need to be trying to get him more into the game, because when the ball actually got to him, he had a real chance inside the box where he took a fantastic touch, and then the Forest players put an unbelievable block in, which has prevented a clear goal. When Walter-Marto actually gets a chance, he's class. He's such a good player, but we're not ever feeding him the ball. We've got to try and integrate this player better into our team, because when he's got the ball, what a player he is. Seriously, what a player. And we just have to be able to get him more involved with our player, because when he actually has the ball, one of our most talented players, and that's a real talented striker there. He's already got 4 goals, and that's one player that shouldn't even be playing this many games. He's playing this many games because of the Wissa injury, which has actually been completely out of his hands, and he's stepped up. He has properly stepped up, and I'm every time I watch this guy, I want to see more, and that's a real exciting, ambitious striker that I want to achieve a lot. And I tell you what, for a replacement in the summer for a player that's one on strike, my word, you couldn't have got better than him. What a sign he is, and he's worth every penny so far. So let's keep at him. Let's keep pushing Newcastle. International break now, a couple weeks to sort everything out. We have to protect them because Wissa still is out for a bit of time. Quality for Newcastle though, again, top quality today. Best half I've seen all season long for us, and that second half. Thank the Lord, because that first half was awful. The second half was brilliant. Well done, boys. I'm pleased with that. We move on now. We do a Brighton after the international break, and just like that, Benfica in the Champions League. So get it together, lads. We go again. Come on.